Hey guys, it's DIY Alex and I am back with another tutorial Thursday. Today we are going to be talking about the differences between DTF and UV DTF. And if you're not familiar with those terms, DTF stands for direct to film. So traditional DTF versus UV or ultraviolet DTF or direct to film printing. It's going to be super fun, a little bit more of a simple live. First, we're going to go over kind of the information and like what the differences are between them. I actually made you a slide in Canva so that we can see the differences in front of us. And then we are going to do a short project with each of them so that you can get a feel for them in case you are brand new. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome if you're new. Don't forget to subscribe to DIY Alex for more videos every Thursday, plus all of the hundreds of videos that I've posted over the years. There's so much to look through and I really don't want you guys to miss out. So make sure that you are a part of our channel by subscribing. And I say our because this really is a community that I love so very much that I like to affectionately call my crafty fam. So we're going to get started here in just a moment. If you guys that are in the chat, if you can let me know if you can hear me okay and see me okay. I finally figured out what I was doing wrong with my microphone last week. Or I figured it out today from when I was having trouble last week and it was super easy. And it looks like I have audio, but just to make sure that the connection is good, let me know that you can hear and see. And we are not actually going to be using this big gray heat press, but I was changing out the the platen and the lower platen because I actually was using it as a hat press a few days ago. And so while I did that, I thought I would just show you guys, what I was doing. And if you've never seen it before, it's really easy to do, but it might look complicated if you've never tried it. So that has nothing to do with this tutorial, but I'm going to do that real quick before we start. Since we usually kind of hang out anyways, and we don't do much in the first couple minutes, I figured I would switch this out, show you guys that, and then we're going to dive into DTF. Hey, Christine. Hi, Kristen. Welcome, welcome. Oh, I'm so glad the connection is good. Hi, LSW. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Liam. It's so good to see you guys. Good, good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in and start playing around with my heat press. So this is the StarCraft, I think it's 5-in-1 heat press that I've had for a really, really long time. And for Father's Day, I was utilizing the hat press ability of this heat press. And most times on traditional heat presses, when you see that is typically so that you can sublimate designs on them. And I've actually, you guys don't get me in trouble, okay, with I don't even know who, but I have never switched out the parts for a hat press on this press. A way long time ago, oh gosh, at this point, I left 143 Vinyl in 2021 to pursue DIY Alex full time. So it's been like 4.5 years since I worked for 143 Vinyl. But when I did, I got to play with heat presses all the time. So I have definitely switched out attachments, upper platens, lower platens, all that stuff. I've just never done it with this heat press before. So it worked out really, really great that I was able to do that. Kristen says, I still have issues getting my hat right on the attachment for that press. Okay, Kristen, well, that's fine. Let's look at it together. So, okay, you can see this part back here, right? Okay, so what I did, and I actually did this wrong, and I stopped, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this on the camera and show you all. Hi, Anthony. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. So what I did wrong is that these, this is the regular platen, okay? So these two pieces are the hat attachment. This goes in the top. This is the upper platen or the hot part that plugs in and actually gives the heat. And then this section on the bottom is the place where the hat rests. It's like the lower platen for the hat press on this heat press. But what I did wrong when I was switching this back over is that you have to put the upper platen in first because you have these big long, I don't know what you call them, almost like guides that need to go in the back of the press. And I accidentally put on the lower platen first. So basically, I'll show you guys when we get to the other side. There are just a couple of wing nuts that hold it in place on the bottom. And on the main platen, there are 4 wing nuts that line up with screw holes. But on the hat press, there are only 2. So it's just on the front and the back. So I'm just feeling it there. That was the good old days with Troy. That's true, Christine. That was a long time ago. It feels like a million years ago. Anthony said, my Cricut AutoPress just died last Friday. Oh no. Looking at new presses now. Wow, that's a bummer, Anthony. That didn't last too long, did it? Well, I know the Cricut AutoPresses are super on sale right now. There's a lot of Cricut products seem to be really, really discounted. So I don't know if you want to get another one, but they are way cheaper than what they were a couple years ago. But there's lots of great options too. And I need to bring you guys some more content about that because I've tried out a lot of different heat presses. Hey sis, thanks for joining us. I'm so glad you're here. So if you have questions specifically about heat presses, you know, kind of overarching questions that I could make a video about especially, let me know because I'm happy to talk more about that. I have a lot of expertise in different things like that because I've tried out a lot of different things. So I know a lot of different, you know, I've had a lot of experience, more so than probably the average crafter, since this used to be, you know, when I worked for a company and it was my full-time job, I worked with a myriad of different presses then, and then I've owned several over the years as well. So you can kind of see my hand, it's underneath the platen here. It's going to be right, I know it's a little hard to see here, so that's one wing nut, and this is the other wing nut. So those 4 wing nuts are all that holds this on. So it's honestly not that much, and it's not that hard to get these off. It's hard because I can't see. But it's really pretty simple. You just twist them off, and then you can move them, or remove them, I guess. And then there are also 2 wing nuts that hold the top platen as well. I can't see. Hold on, sorry guys, I gotta turn it around towards me a little bit because I can't see. And of course, I must have really tightened that one. I just did this a couple minutes ago and it was easy. Ow, hurts my hand. Now here I am talking about how easy it is. Now you see I'm struggling. Let me grab a pair of pliers so that I can open that up. These are not the ideal type of pliers. These are wire cutters, but I can grab the wing nut, you know, and it might not be on there very even. See if I can see. Lefty loosey, so I need to pull it that way. You guys, here I am talking smack about how easy it is. Oh, there we go. I just had to get it loosened and then it came off just fine. So it unscrews and then I have my wing nuts free. Then I can lift my lower platen up off the screws, and then it's it's free to move. So you have these other, it's so dirty down there. I didn't realize that either until otherwise. I'm going to put you guys on my overhead camera because I think you're going to be able to see a lot easier. So when we're looking at this press, these 4 are where the regular platen sits. But if you're using the hat attachment on this, it's just going to sit front to back. So I'm not going to screw this in because I need to change mine out. But all you do is just stick that on there, put in the 2 wing nuts, and then that's it for the lower platen for the hat press. Hey Ashley, welcome. So glad you're here. So now that we're going to be switching it back to the regular platen, let me switch this over so y'all can see. So I'll show you what I did wrong. I put in the lower platen first, but then that does not leave room for these big rods. You guys can't see that, sorry. It doesn't leave room for these big rods that need to go through here and here to actually get back into the heat press. So I'm gonna do that first. And it's honestly a little tricky, but not hard. So we're gonna put the support rods there, and then we stick it up like this, and then we apply the wing nuts here on the sides. So I'm holding it up from underneath, and I'm gonna put my wing nuts on. Make sure we're holding it up all the way, and start to tighten. It's a little hard to get it on there straight one-handed. There we go. So we'll get it started on that side. We can always go back and tighten it later. But you don't want to over tighten these so that it ends up being really hard to get on and off. And then as you tighten up the wing nuts, it kind of draws the platen up to where it's supposed to be. And just like that, we're all done. Actually, I'm kind of looking at it. I might need to work on evening that up. But that's beside the point. You guys see what I'm doing. I think you kind of get the idea. Ashley, so we are going to be doing DTF versus UV DTF. So this is not related to that project. I just needed to switch my platen out because I was using the hat press on this heat press, and now I need to switch back to the regular one. So then to make sure that the top platen can heat up, you're going to plug it into here. That's like what supplies the heat. And then once we get it properly attached, then there's like a little nut here that we have to, not a nut, that's not the right word, but we have to screw this in to make sure that connection stays secure so that the platen will get heat. And there we have it. So once I have the top platen in place, then I can put the bottom platen in place. And I usually just swing mine out of the way when it's a swing way like this. But you do want to be careful because I don't know if you can see that, but it's tipping because I have the platen on like the opposite side where it usually is. So you just want to make sure that you're really nice and careful. And I need to plug this in somewhere, I think. But I'll figure that out later. Okay. So then what we're going to do is what we were trying to do before and put our lower platen over top of these supports and then just use the wing nuts to put them in place. And then after that, we'll get to DTF versus UV DTF. So I'm just lifting this. There we go. Pushing it down so it's flat on the bottom. I know you guys can't see anymore at this point, so I'll go back to the regular camera. Sorry, that's not the best angle for a project like this, and this is not the full point of today's video, so I didn't want to move the cameras around too much. But like I said, if you guys want to chat about different, heat presses at some point, or you have questions about it, I'm happy to do a video on them. So now I'm just going to go back to putting my wing nut supports here. I'm actually, because I'm doing the DTF project that we're going to do is just going to be a koozie, and since it's so small, I am just going to use my Cricut Easy Press, just because when I'm live, it's kind of difficult for me to show a heat press. The Easy Press is easier because I can keep it on my table. Where my heat press is here in my craft room, it's hard to like set up an additional angle for over there. So that's why I tend to use the Easy Press probably more than I do in my regular crafting, because it's just easier to show on the camera from this particular angle. So, but because we're doing a koozie that's never going to go through the washing machine or anything, the pressure is still important, but it's not quite as important as it would be if you were doing something like a t-shirt that's going to go through the washing machine. Okay. Once our wing nuts are all on and tightened, my heat press is restored to normal. And I don't like to store mine. Here's a little pro tip for you. I don't like to store mine with it all the way down because I don't like to put pressure on the springs while I'm not using it. So I do like to kind of store it closed. So I'll kind of halfway close the handle. I know you can't do that with all styles of heat press, but it works really well for this one. This one sits on the floor in my closet over here. And then I'll just put my attachments away for another day. So let me move this out of our way, and then we will get to it. Oh, thanks, Kristen. She said that goes in the countdown display. You're talking about this little cord here. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. But I'll get that later. Hopefully I don't forget that before my next project. I'll kind of leave it out so that I remember to plug it in. Okay, let me scoot this over and we will get to DTF and UV DTF. Sorry guys, hopefully that's not too loud because the microphone, like where I'm wearing it, is right next to where I was picking that up. So sorry about that if that was loud. I wish I could show you guys all the angles, but like I said, sometimes angles are tricky with live because I have to like set up a camera around the whole room and it's kind of hard to do. Okay, now we're all set. And I can move, I wanted to move everything over anyway, because I like to have this mat under here for you all. I think it gives you a better view. Maybe one day you can do a tutorial for all of the 5-in-1 breasts. Yeah, Christine, I totally could. If you guys want to, I could certainly do that for you. Ashley said, I just went on a mini shopping spree at Hobby Lobby for some future videos. My bank account is not happy. I feel you, Ashley. But it is fun. It's fun when you're inspired and you're picking stuff out. It is definitely, that's like the best feeling. Okay, cool. So now we're reset and ready to talk through DTF versus UV DTF. Now I wonder if I can still do a poll. During the premiere, I used to be able to do a poll. They have those? Oh yes, we do. Okay, so I'm gonna put a poll in the chat and I want you guys to answer. Have you ever tried, I wanna know if you've tried DTF, UV DTF, or neither one. That's what I wanna find out. Excuse me. So I'm gonna put that as an option here. Have you tried any kind of DTF as our question? And then I'll put a couple of options. I have tried, I'm gonna put traditional DTF. I have tried UV DTF. Can I add 4 options? Oh, that'd be even better. I have not tried any kind of DTF, or I have tried both kinds of DTF. There we go. I want to know where you guys are at in your DTF journey. So I just put a poll in the chat. If you're here live with us, make sure that you click the answer that's the most true for you. Kristen said, I have yet to use all the attachments for the silver swing away. The sublimation plates, I just don't understand. Yeah, Kristen, they are a little confusing. I won't even, try to sugarcoat it. They are a bit confusing. But once you see what they're for, you might want to use them if you had the right, blanks. So that's a good idea. I keep a spreadsheet when you guys make requests and things like that. And when I most recently asked in my email, I kept a spreadsheet of your requests. In fact, the Father's Day t-shirt, I forgot to say that last week, but the Father's Day t-shirt that we made last week was a direct request from when I sent out an email asking what you guys wanted to see. So I do keep that stuff in mind. I can't always, accommodate the requests, of course, but I try because I know that's what you guys really want to know. So that would be super cool. Honestly, videos like that though, where I need to move the camera around, those work better as pre-recorded videos because then I can actually move my camera and edit everything together so that it just flows a lot better. So it may be something where I need to do a pre-recorded video of that, but I certainly can. And I also want to make sure that those heat presses are still for sale. I'm not 100% sure that they are. I hope they are. But I don't want to do something on, I don't want to make a video on something that nobody else can buy, because then if they see that and they don't already own it, they're going to be like, well, hey, dang, why'd you make a video about something that's no longer available? So I'll have to add that. Ashley said they got a bunch of pickleball stuff. Oh, fun. And since I'm obsessed, I had to get the sublimation paddles. Okay, so I have never played pickleball. And I really want to. In fact, my husband and my son and I went to the park last night, and they have pickleball courts at our park. And I said to him, I was like, we should get into pickleball. Like, that would be really fun. I love doing types of exercise that don't feel like exercise, because that's just like the best way to get in shape, right? So I was telling him about that. Christine said, I have them, but don't know how to use them. Well, you guys, we should do that. Okay, I'm gonna open up my spreadsheet really quick while you guys are answering that poll, and then we will continue. Sorry for there's a little bit of a lag on my computer screen, and now I can see that I like picking my eyelashes looks really weird. So sorry about that. Let me open up my spreadsheet, and I'm gonna add that as a request for you all, because I do think that would be really beneficial. Just a hot second. I'll add that. I have a request tab down here. And honestly, guys, I think I would probably be with you if I had never, if that was never my job to play with heat presses and things like that. I don't know that I ever would have learned how to use all these things, because you don't necessarily own every blank for every project, that just happened to be what I was doing. So it was literally my job to teach things like that. But I love it. I love being able to know how to use it all, even if I don't always do it myself. Ashley said, it's so fun. And Kristen said, Alex, have you not ever played pickleball? I know. I'm telling you guys, and before I was a mom in the last couple of years, I was actually pretty athletic. I love doing things like that. Before I got married, I used to run all the time. Did you guys know? You guys probably don't know this about me, but back in college, I taught Zumba. In fact, from high school all the way through college and a little bit beyond college, actually, I taught Zumba classes and stuff. So I've been pretty athletic in the past. I just haven't really found any, and in fact, I just started working out again. That's the first time that I have worked out in the last couple weeks. Well, that's not true. I've gone to the gym a few times since Carter has been born. I've done a couple of home workouts, but I actually started working with a trainer again, which is what I did before Carter was born. And actually regularly going. I went this morning at 8 a.m. I got a workout in before the day really got started. So I'm starting to get back to it, but pickleball seems like a really great way to incorporate that. Anthony said, only done sublimation in HTV so far, wanting to try DTF. Thinking about ordering some sheets to try it, can't afford to jump into printing right away. Yes, exactly, Anthony. And you know what? I have added this live video to my DTF projects playlist, but for you specifically, Anthony, I recommend going and watching my DTF projects playlist, because in the very first video, I was working with a company that I no longer work with, so I don't necessarily recommend everything that I said in that video, but I did an introduction to DTF and a deep dive on what DTF is and how it works. And in that video, I explain that I personally don't believe that for most people, it makes sense to purchase a DTF printer. And there's a couple reasons why I think that. The first is the startup cost. You're looking at $4,000 to $5,000 plus for a professional DTF printer. So that being the entry point is obviously pretty high. And for most people, as long as you can plan ahead, which is the trade-off for not owning your own printer, right? As long as you can plan ahead, I think it makes more sense to go ahead and order your prints. And there are plenty of great companies that do this. A couple off the top of my head that come to me are 143 Vinyl does this, Heat Transfer Warehouse does this, Jiffy Shirts does this. And so as long as you are being able to plan ahead, I think that purchasing your prints is perfectly reasonable. And honestly, unless you have a business yourself, the vast majority of the time, I would recommend ordering your prints rather than owning a printer. Because the second reason is not just the startup cost, even if you can afford the startup cost, the second reason is maintenance, okay? So the way that DTF prints work, we can talk about that a little bit. The way that they work is they actually have a white coating on the back of them. So it's not quite as obvious like on this one because there's color here, but you can see they have a white coating on the back and then they lay additional color down. Well, actually, I guess they lay color down first because they're printed down like this. So they lay the original color down and then they print white on the back, okay? And the reason that that's done is so that you can place your prints on any colored surface. So you don't have to just, with sublimation, you're super limited to white and very, very light colors. With DTF, you can use any color. There's no restriction on that. Of course, you want to make it make sense. So on a dark gray shirt like this, you probably wouldn't want to put black text because it just wouldn't be a very good color choice. But like, you could still see the text, it would still show up because of that white on the back. And because of that white ink and just the way that DTF ink works, the maintenance is really, really high and really difficult. Like I know back when we started talking about sublimation, a lot of people were unsure about it because of the regular printing that you have to do with sublimation printers, especially for converted Epsons, you do have to print on a regular basis. But with DTF printers, you literally have to print every single day, and there's still a very high likelihood, a very high chance that there will be errors, that there will be clogs, and also like, if we're just talking realistically, a lot of people are going to be purchasing their printers from other countries such as China. And so the customer service can be a little bit difficult because not only is China on an opposite schedule of us, like their time zones are opposite, so they're awake when we are asleep, but also the language barrier makes customer service really, really difficult. So if you have problems, even if you can reach out to the company, it's gonna take a really long time for you to get a hold of them just because they're on a completely different time zone than we are. So just some things to think about. Oh yes, Ninja Transfers is another great company that does prints. I mean, honestly, there's lots of great options out there. And because of that, for the person who's not selling their prints, generally speaking, I don't really feel like it's necessary. Now that's just DIY Alex, that's my opinion. You can do with it whatever you'd like. You can completely disregard it because you think it makes sense for you, or, you can trust that I have some experience because I do. It's totally up to you. So yeah. Yeah, I agree, Anthony. I love sublimation. There's a lot of wonderful things about it, but I agree that having the color restriction makes it really difficult because, of course, you want to have the variety. I like to wear dark colored t-shirts. Like, I'll just be real with you guys. I almost never wear a white t-shirt just because I just like the comfort of having a darker color. So that's why sublimation is definitely limiting for me. Not to say that I don't ever use it because I definitely do, but I will say that I rarely sublimate shirts for that purpose. Plus, I don't like the feeling of polyester, like especially 100% polyester, but even like 50-50 blends, I'm a cotton girly for the most part. So I really prefer cotton and like majority cotton in my clothing. So that's why I think that there are lots of great options, and none of them are wrong. It's just all personal preference for, what makes sense for your project, what works for you. And that's what a lot of it comes down to. So yeah. In fact, we'll see, but I was possibly chatting with Ninja Transfers about working with them. I've worked with 143 in the past. I've worked with Heat Transfer Warehouse's prints. I've not worked with Jiffy's prints, but I have looked at them before. So honestly, you're gonna get great quality no matter where you go to some of those companies. And so that's just my take on it though, Anthony. So I hope that helps. Um, Anthony said, I wonder about the powder too. Is it crazy I'm more worried about my dogs than me? You know, and yeah, that's so true because that's something else I didn't talk through here. And I don't have a ton of experience in that because I've never done a home printer with DTF, but I have heard concern about using the powder that goes on the back of DTF prints, because here's the kicker. It's not just that powder goes on the back, it's that you also heat that powder in order to set it. Because I heard something at 143 that I thought was a really cute, or not cute, but a really good analogy, is that the back of a DTF print, if you've never felt one before, has what they call an orange peel feel. And so it literally feels bumpy, you know, like smooth-ish, but kind of bumpy, like the back of an orange peel. And basically, that's essentially like plastic adhesive that you are melting on the back of that print. And for me personally, that's just not something that I want to not only breathe in myself, but also, I mean, I have a toddler. You guys probably know that if you've been around here. I have a little kid and I don't want him breathing those kinds of fumes in. So I would rather leave it to the professionals personally. But that's just my take on it. So do with that what you will. Emily said, if money were no object, I'd probably invest in a DTG printer. Yes, Emily, those are so cool. And I don't know a ton about them, but watching those online are amazing. So if you're not familiar with the acronym DTG, that stands for direct to garment. And that is where you are actually putting like a shirt or whatever inside the printer and it actually prints directly onto the garment. It is very, very cool. But until I started researching DTF, I did not realize like the significant amount of maintenance for those types of printers. And I wonder if DTG is similar, and that not only is the cost high, but also, you know, the maintenance is another factor, because unless, like I said, unless you are a small business that's kind of broaching into a medium-sized business, you're probably not going to necessarily be printing on your printer every day, but that is really essential when you own some of these larger commercial type printers. So just some things to keep in mind if you were thinking about purchasing. Yes, and I do love that 143 is wonderful. They're wonderful about checking all of your prints before they print them. So if they think the quality is not going to be good, they will reach out to you. And in fact, they've even reached out to me a couple of times. They've corrected my images, and then they're so sweet to actually send you the image that's corrected. So that's an amazing quality that I have not seen other places. But it's still good to know that your images are being reviewed. So lots of great reasons. Paul said, can you use inkjet for DTF? Now, Paul, I do know that some people, I believe, are converting white toner printers for DTF. I don't know that they might be converting inkjet printers for DTF, but I'm not 100% sure. But because of the white ink, which is totally different than colored ink, I don't recommend it. Christine said, what was 143? Yeah, it used to be 651 vinyl. Yeah, Christine, I remember those days. She said, I ordered every color and shade of every vinyl, and I still have most of it. Honestly, Christine, me too. I have pretty much every color. I have all the colors of Softflex. I have all the colors of Starcraft vinyl. I have a lot of colors of Easy Weed, plus a lot of the specialty vinyl. So I still have a lot, and I still use it from time to time. I won't say I never do. It's just a little more rare. Okay. So it was good to catch up with you all. Let's check on this. Let's check on our poll here. I'm going to end the poll now that you guys have had a few minutes to answer. And let's see where everyone's at. So 42% of you have not tried any kind of DTF. 21% of you have only tried traditional DTF. 21% of you have also tried both traditional DTF and UV DTF. And 14% of you have only tried UV DTF. Well, that's great to know. Thank you guys so much for letting me know where you're at. Yeah, they have come a long way, Christine. I know. It's wild. Honestly, it's wild to walk down memory lane. Really wild. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all because, like I said, we went a little old school, almost like school. I created a slide for you that has a Venn diagram on it. And that is what I am going to introduce DTF with you because I just thought it would be easier if you could visually see it. Okay, hold on. I like created it in another slideshow. So you're seeing slides that are not what I wanted you to see. Hold on. Where is the Venn diagram? Oh, here it is. It's just turned off. There we go. Canva's a little funky with their presenting. Here we go, unhide page. There, okay. So I'm gonna switch you all over and let's talk about it. So we have DTF versus UV DTF. It's probably pretty obvious which order is what, but just in case, I labeled them both on the sides. Let's talk about traditional DTF, which again stands for direct to film printing. DTF is ideal for fabric projects and cardboard. So with something like cardboard, even though that's a hard surface, so you would think, oh, well, it makes more sense to use UV DTF here. The thing that is interesting and important to remember with UV DTF is that the cover sheet, or like the transfer tape, if you will, if you're a Cricut crafter, the transfer tape that is on UV DTF is extremely intense. It's very, very strong. So it would rip the cardboard to pieces. So that's why I put this on here. Like, for example, if you were a small business and you wanted to customize your packaging, you would want to do so with regular traditional DTF, not UV DTF. And something else I want to say before we begin, and you guys have probably made this connection, but just in case you haven't, DTF, very simply, you can think more like, you can compare it to heat transfer vinyl if you're a Cricut crafter. And it's not all the same as heat transfer vinyl by any means, but you can think of like the projects it would be ideal for would be comparable to heat transfer vinyl or HTV. UV DTF, you can think of more as adhesive vinyl, so it's more ideal for hard surfaces. But again, you are keeping in mind here that with UV DTF, they've got that very, very, very sticky carrier sheet, if you will, or transfer tape. And so any surfaces that are going to be sensitive, you want to keep that in mind, because it is certainly going to, you know, take the top layer off if it's not a hard enough surface. With DTF, the film is on the front side only. So again, directly from the printer means that the ink is laid down onto film. And it's similar to HTV, where the film is down first and then the colors are added on, right? Just the color ink. And then behind that is white ink. And then after that, the powder is put on the back and then it's dried. That's what makes the adhesive stick to it, and then that is how it's produced. Whereas UV DTF has the same process. It's printed onto the film, and then it lays down color, it lays down white, then it lays on the adhesive, and then another sheet is on the back. So there are two sides of film with UV DTF, but the film is only on the front side of direct-to-film transfers. DTF is heat activated, similar to heat transfer vinyl, whereas UV DTF is pressure activated. So pressure is going to come from the tools that you're using to to transfer it. So you're definitely going to want a squeegee here, or maybe even like a harder plastic squeegee than what you've used with vinyl in the past, because it is a little bit tricky. And then both of them are permanent, but DTF is permanent once heat is applied, whereas UV DTF is permanent once it's placed. So something I want to emphasize to you about UV DTF is that it is not repositionable. It is not repositionable. So once you place it, you have to be very, very sure about it, because it is not coming back off. So vinyl, adhesive vinyl tends to be a little bit more forgiving. So that's one way that UV DTF is not like vinyl. Once you stick it down, baby, it is stuck. It is stuck. So then we have the area of the Venn diagram in the middle where things overlap. The things that DTF and UV DTF have in common are that they are printed onto film, right? That's what direct to film means. But of course, there's different types of film because one is heat sensitive, the other one's not. So they're not even exactly the same film, but they're both printed onto film. Both of them are full color and capable of intricate details. Now, that is true. However, that being said, you also can get too intricate for DTF. So what I mean by that is, yes, it is definitely capable of more intricacy than like vinyl would have been or heat transfer vinyl would have been. But if the lines get too thin, remember that the printer still has to be able to lay down the ink, the color layer, the white layer, and the powder on the back. So if you think about that, if let's say you have one of those designs that kind of has a splatter around it, and the pieces are so tiny and so fine that it's basically only going to get like one little speck of powder on it, then at the end of the day, that's not going to stick long term on a t-shirt, right? Once you heat activate it, it's not going to stick long term. So you do still want to be cognizant of like the thickness of the lines, and that's something that a lot of the uploaders, when you upload your prints to purchase them, hopefully, I'm most experienced with 143s, but with other companies as well, hopefully you're going to get a, kind of an approval of if your image is going to be good for DTF, because that is something to keep in mind. And in fact, I can show you guys another slide where I have an example of that here in just a minute. And then the other thing that is important and great about both of them is that they're both very durable. They're durable in different ways because of the different surfaces that they are ideal for, but they are both quite durable. Honestly, probably a lot more durable than vinyl and heat transfer vinyl like we're even used to. So that is really, really great news. Christine is saying, I have shower glass. What do you recommend? For shower glass, you would definitely want to do UV DTF for sure. And Kristen says, don't sneeze when placing down that UV DTF. Yep, I probably wouldn't recommend that. And then also make projects like full wraps and things like that a bit trickier because, you just don't have any margin for error. If you're going to have to pick that vinyl back off again or that DTF back off, it's going to be difficult. So you just don't have a lot of margin of error there. Okay, so I actually made the slideshow in the slideshow that I showed in my DTF workshop. So I do have a paid resource all about DTF. So I'm not going to show you the entire slideshow because that would not be fair to the folks that have purchased it. But if you're looking for a more significant resource when it comes to direct-to-film transfers, I do have that available. So I have a link to it's called Debunking DTF. It is linked in the description of this video if you want to check it out. It's a bit of a shorter video. It's kind of like a mini course, basically, is how you can think of my workshops. They're like mini courses. They're very focused on just one topic, and they're around an hour. So I can't remember exactly how long the DTF video was, but it's maybe like an hour and 15 minutes at the most. But it gives you all of the ins and outs of DTF. We go over a slideshow to give you the basics, and then I walk you through a project and everything. So that is available to you if you feel like you need it. But this is one of the slides that I show in the workshop. This is something that 143 Vinyl gave me. So this is their image ultimately. But basically you can kind of see what the different line widths look like on the left and then how they're going to translate over here on the right. So 3/4 of a pixel is not going to pass their uploader because it's going to be way too thin. It's not going to have enough powder on the back to really have a good adhesion to the surface. 1 pixel starts to show up, but it's not very consistent. Even 1.5 pixels is not going to be great. They do have like a pass option in their uploader, so it'll tell you that the design is passed, but it's still not awesome. Are the 2 pixels as well as 2.5 pixels. But ideally, your lines in your designs, like your lines and your dots, your shapes, would be a minimum of 3 pixels or wider. That's how you know for sure that you're gonna get a really, really good quality print. Emily says, is UV DTF dishwasher safe? So I would say yes. My experience with that has been yes, and I have heard people say that it is pretty dishwasher safe and does pretty well in there. But as you know, with the environment of the dishwasher being a really high heat, kind of intense washing, it's probably going to shorten the life of your project to use it in the dishwasher because eventually it's going to wear off. But overall, I would say it is approved for the dishwasher. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so that's kind of my my beginning spiel, teaching you all about the basics. So let me know in the chat if you guys have any questions about that. Now we are gonna move to the second part, which is where we are actually going to take a look at these up close. So I'm gonna send you guys to the overhead view. Let me fix it up a little bit. Normally I do this before we start, but since the heat press was in the way, I couldn't look at it. Okay. That looks pretty good. Alrighty. So, the difference is, honestly, they look really, really similar, but they feel different in person. So you might not be able to 100% tell from through the camera, you guys, but I promise that when you get them, you'll know the difference. It's pretty simple. And I didn't go over this yet, but the way that I like to store all of my prints is in, I would call this, because I'm a 90s kid, I would call this a trapper keeper. Some people would call it like an accordion folder. There's different names for it, but this is what I like to store my DTF transfers in. And the reason I like to is because I have little categories, I have little labels, and I categorize my transfers by size. So I have a folder for small, for medium, and for large prints. Like you can even see some of them are big enough that they literally fold over my trapper keeper, which is fine. And then because I don't have as many, I have all of my UV DTF in the back. So it all fits in the same pocket because it's a lot smaller than the rest of my prints. So that's just a little pro tip for you, but that's how I like to organize my transfers so that they're not just in massive piles where I can never find them. So there's a little pro tip for you. All right, so we're gonna do a couple of traditional DTF projects first. And that is, we're just gonna do something really simple. We're just gonna do these koozies. We kind of stuck with a 4th of July theme here since 4th of July is coming up really soon, which is crazy. Can't believe we're already that far in the year. Plus, these transfers are from 143 vinyl, so I always like to keep their directions handy. So they give you this sheet when you place an order, and I think that that helps a lot. So we're going to preheat everything to 310. What I like about DTF is that it really works. Whoops, I turned it off instead of fixing it up. What I really like about DTF is that, or what I like about these particular directions is that everything ends in a 10, so it's really easy to remember. So we are going to preheat for 310 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're going to preheat for 10 seconds, heat with the transfer film on for 10 seconds, and then we're going to peel off the carrier sheet and do a final press for 10 seconds. So I always like when things are easy to remember. And that's why I followed these directions, because I just think it's easy to remember. So while that's heating, we'll get all set up. And so this is the DTF is the film on the front, and then the adhesive is on the back. Now we just talked about not having really, really super thin spots, but this one does. So you can see, I mean, this design has like very intricate little splatters around it, and this one did just fine in the DTF printer. So I still think that's pretty intricate, honestly, and pretty capable of fairly intricate designs. But, you know, I guess the moral of the story is that it's never that there's no limitation. It's never that you're going to get to unlimited amounts of intricate designs. There's always going to be some sort of, you know, maybe not stipulation, but there's always going to be some sort of limitation, I think is the word I'm looking for when it comes to your designs. I'm going to bring y'all a little closer to me because I do want to use a little bit firmer pressure. So I just want to make sure that, you know, I can actually, it's not too far away and I can still press down on the easy press. Now, heat tape is not required for projects like this, but I do like to use it just to make sure that my design doesn't move, because like traditional DTF film is not sticky at all on the front. So it's easy for it to wiggle around. So like I said, not required, but I do like to use it. So I'm just going to put one piece of tape at the top. I don't feel like you need to, like, I personally don't like go crazy with it, but I do like to have it at the top there. And something, oh, where Easy Press is ready. Something else that's really interesting about DTF is that you don't need a cover sheet for over top of the film. At the end, I do like to use like parchment paper, ideally, just so that nothing gets stuck to my press. But you technically don't have to use anything even once you peel the film off. Okay. So, since I only have a 9x, no, I mean, I think that if I stuck both of these together, they should work just fine. So, yeah, we're going to do them together and we're going to hope for the best. Oh, thank you, Kristen. You're right. She said you didn't preheat the blank. Yep, you are exactly right. Thank you, Kristen, keeping me on track. Okay, so we'll start by preheating these. And you know what? For these, I may do a 5-second preheat. So I'm breaking the rules a little bit. But the reason I'm doing that is because koozies do okay underneath heat, but they don't do amazing, right? Because they're not meant to be, like they're not meant to get as hot as like a shirt. So we'll just preheat for a few seconds. And I'm just holding this on there. I'm not really pushing on it. Just to get out the moisture, anything like that. Thank you for the reminder, Kristen. And then we'll go ahead and add our design back on. Luckily, the placement was really, really easy because we're just kind of eyeballing the center there. And I got this set of prints last summer when 143 did a, I think they did a mystery box. Y'all will have to remind me. I think that's where these came from. So I did not order these individual prints, but you could totally take an image set of like 4th of July images and get a really similar look from it. So this time I'm going to go ahead and heat the transfers on for 10 seconds. And I am going to be pushing down and providing a fair amount of pressure. Okay. So, and honestly, to be totally transparent with you, I've never done DTF on a koozie before. I've done a lot of different surfaces, but not a koozie. So it's kind of fun that I get to try it out with you guys. Hopefully I was able to provide enough pressure, but it is possible that we may have to do another couple of seconds. Yeah, the big part of the design is coming off, no problem, but those little speckles are not. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do another 5-second press on each of these, and I'm just gonna do one koozie at a time because I want all these splatters around the design to transfer, and I think that the heat might have been a little bit uneven. Yeah, Kristen said, yeah, the 4th of July collections. That's what I thought. That's where I got these images from. But like I said, you can totally go on places like Etsy, Creative Fabrica, design bundles, wherever you want to go and get a set of images and order a huge sheet of them. And I will say that I really like these little tiny designs because when you build a gang sheet, you should be packing that thing in as close as you can so you get as many images as possible. And small images like this are a great way to fill in any gaps you have around your bigger designs. All right, so we're just gonna do another 5 seconds. Okay, so there's one. We'll do it again for this one. Whoop, she's stuck. There we go. All right, let's see if that helped it any. And you definitely don't have to wait for these to peel 100 or for these to cool 100% before you peel them. It does help though. I mean, honestly, it definitely can help if you're struggling. Oh man, these little splatters are struggling with easy press. The main design is coming off, no question. Oh, that's just the tape at the top. So we ended up transferring the majority of it. A couple of little pieces are still on the film, but I feel like that's okay. I think it did pretty well. And we still have to do our 10-second post press. So because this is not 1000% adhered, and just because honestly guys, old habits die hard and I always am used to using a cover sheet. I have some parchment paper that we used from last week doing our HTV project. So I'm just gonna put that over top. Also, because you guys may not have had this experience, but I have stuck HTV to the bottom of a heat press before. It wasn't an easy press, it was an actual heat press, and cleaning that actually sucks. So that's why I'm such a goofball about using a cover sheet, because I hate cleaning off the platens of heat presses. All right, so we'll push this down and we'll do our post press. And hopefully that will take care of any of the little stragglers that were kind of sticking up. Honestly, it worked really great. So that looks really, really good. And honestly, it looks like it's a part of the fabric. You can't even tell that it's like a transfer. So looks really good. All right, let's work on our little heart here, see if it fared any better. Ooh, you guys, this one's 100% clean. Look at that. Absolutely no splatters left on the film itself. So we're gonna go ahead and do our 10-second post press with this one as well. Whoop. Okay, it kind of moved with the paper, but it didn't get stuck. But this one turned out even better. So quick and so easy. Like as a crafter who learned about crafting in the HTV era, the fact that you can just like press and peel projects like this just honestly still blows my mind. It's crazy. Anthony, he said, not to open a can of worms, but what's the thought of Creative Fabric a commercial license? So that's a great question, Anthony. To be honest with you, I saw the video that I'm sure you saw and the controversy around that. And I'm not 100% sure. I have been a little cautious to use them since I learned about that. And it's honestly something that I want to look into more. So I don't really have much of a comment for you. I know what you're talking about 100%. But from some friends of mine, this is not going to name any names, but from some friends of mine, they have suggested that I switch back to some more design bundles images. I have not made that switch yet necessarily. Because I don't like the structure as much of what Design Bundles puts out with their, like they have a subscription, but I don't like that it doesn't apply to everything. It only applies to some things. And so I'm not 100% sure. But I know what you're talking about. I totally understand. And if I'm being 1,000% honest, if you sell your designs, the safest way to do that is to make your own designs. That's my personal thought on it. To make your own designs, make sure you are following, laws for reproducing images, and that is going to be your best bet. Of course, it takes a lot more time, but you're guaranteeing that everything is original, and you know what I mean? And I mean, nobody else can recreate it like you can, especially with, so our friend Ashley, if she's still here, is an expert at teaching people how to use AI to create designs more quickly. She's actually a graphic designer by trade, but she has started embracing AI to create more designs. And so maybe Ashley's someone that you would want to follow to learn how you can create designs. If you're not a designer by trade, but you still want to create your own images, that might be something to consider. So there you go. But that's our little that's our little segment on DTF. I think I said this. I hope I said this. These are traditional direct-to-film projects. So, right, they're on fabric, which means that would be best for direct-to-film. Okay? So now we're going to set this stuff aside, and we're going to jump into UV DTF. And I was going to do something really, well, you might not have found it funny, but I was going to see if you guys wanted to see me sweat because I have never done a full cup wrap tumbler, like on a glass tumbler like this. I have never just wrapped anything all the way around it. And I was going to do that today, but I don't have prints that are wide enough to go all the way around this one. I was looking all the size of these glass cans that I have. It was going to be like a really wide gap. Otherwise, I was going to let y'all see me sweat and try that for the first time on live. But unfortunately, I just didn't have the right size stuff. So maybe we'll still do that. We'll see. But I ended up going with some different designs. By the way, this is like, if you guys have been around the crafting world for a while, this is a Libby glass can. It is not a sublimation blank. It is just a glass can with a wooden top, and I think this is either a glass or a metal straw. I can't remember. But so I am using this not as a sublimation blank, but you could use your sublimation blanks as well. But I just realized that I forgot to grab my alcohol, so let me do that. Mostly because this looks really cloudy because it's really dusty, because I've had these for years and I have not used all of them. So let me grab my alcohol and my paper towels, and we'll wipe this thing down before we started. Anthony, in response to the Creative Fabric, I said, same, I did not renew my subscription, trying to make my own and learn more on Procreate. Yeah, I know, Anthony. I feel ya. I feel ya. I wondered the same thing. And I also, to be fully transparent with you, I wondered how Creative Fabrica could sell one subscription that you can download anything like unlimited, whereas Design Bundles does not do that. And I would think that would be the more obvious way to do it, but I think there's a reason the Design Bundles doesn't do it that way. So I don't know. That's not a question I have an answer to, but I wondered the same thing. And Kristen said, I personally question all those videos from the beginning because I felt we never got the whole story. I personally don't sell, so it isn't an issue for me. I agree, Kristen. I don't know. That's something that I want to dive more into, and I may or may not ever make a public statement about it because that's not always my place, but I probably do need to get a little bit more informed. Where I teach you guys how to make things, I'm not actually selling them myself. It's a little simpler for me, but I know many of you do, or you want to be you want the ability to be able to sell it or to know what the laws are around it, because of course, like ideally you would do things within the rules, within the law that, the most that you're aware. So I'll put that on my list, my proverbial very long to-do list, and see if I can get back to you guys with some more information, or just even maybe in one of my newsletters, I'll put my personal stance on it. Just so you guys are informed and aware. And like always, you can take my recommendations and you can follow them to a T. You can know the rules so you can break them, or, whatever you think. But I need to look more into it because I've wondered about that too, especially because like I have affiliate links from all those websites and I would like to know, you know, what I'm promoting when I'm promoting it. So I hear you. Let me grab my alcohol. I've got my paper towels that I'm going to use. And then my rubbing alcohol is back behind the camera, so that's why I can't take you all with me. Christine said, I didn't even know Creative Fabrica was allowing it. Wow. Yeah, I know, Christine. I wondered the same thing. So I don't know, just, you know, just kind of a mixed bag of thoughts there. But we'll go ahead and dive into this. So let me send you all overhead. You'll be able to see a lot better. We're going to go ahead and first we're going to start by rubbing down this Libby glass with alcohol because like I said, I'm not 100% about following that. I don't always follow it with vinyl, but because I specifically know how dusty this was before I wiped it off, definitely important. And I'm going to wipe off the inside, even though the inside's not as important, just because I don't want my glass to look really dirty. Whew, that smell is strong. Whoops. Ooh. So I kind of use my straw to get down in the bottom because my hand doesn't fit all the way down in there, but that'll at least get us mostly, and then we'll allow it to dry while we're taking a look at the designs. Because you don't want to put it on there straight away. You do want to let the alcohol dry, and then once it does, we'll be good to go. Yes, Emily, I agree. And that's typically, she said, I think if you sell to friends and family, as long as it's not obvious copyright, then you should be okay. And that's kind of the guidelines that I follow for myself personally. Like, of course, you know, making something Disney is an obvious copyright. Taking something from a company is obviously very specific and clearly a copyright. But for the most part, you know, you would think that if you pay for a subscription or you purchase the image from a website that you should have most of the rights to that. But that was what was in question a couple months ago from Creative Fabrica. Oh, and another thing I want to grab is my cup cradle, and then I'll show you guys the designs. Our friend Ashley at Chip Builds is the one who sells these. She created this product and she 3D prints it. This is called a tumbler or a cup cradle. And it just allows you to not have to worry about your cup rolling side to side while you apply your designs, which is awesome, especially because these once you stick them down, you are committed, baby. There's no going back. So all the stability is important. Nicole said, apparently I live under a rock. I don't know anything about the controversy. Okay, Nicole, so for a brief synopsis, and this is just my understanding, so you guys jump in the comments and let me know if I'm incorrect. My understanding is, let me move you back this way so you can see. My understanding about it is that somebody basically made a YouTube video saying that deep within the fine print of the Creative Fabrica subscription, that you do not, I don't even remember the exact issue with it, but basically it was saying that just because you pay for a subscription does not mean that you have the rights to sell those images. But when you purchase a subscription, that's the idea. That's the whole reason why most people purchase it. That was the impression we all had, was that if you purchase a subscription and your subscription is up to date, then you should be able to have a commercial license for each of these images. Basically, the fine print kind of negated that, or basically said, well, if it actually comes to being sued, you're on your own because you actually don't have a commercial license. So that was when people, all of a sudden who were selling their designs were like, wait, what? Like, I've been using Creative Fabrica for years for my designs. What do you mean I don't actually have the rights to sell images, created with these designs, or physical products with these created designs? Of course, it's never legal to resell somebody's image digitally, but if you use it to create something physical and then sell it, that was always allowed. So that's basically kind of what the long and short of that was. And that's really as much as I know about it. I considered reaching out to my contact at Creative Fabrica and talking to them about it, and I probably should, because that might help, maybe if I can understand, I can, explain it to you all. But I also kind of feel like talking to a representative from the company directly feels a little bit like a conflict of interest. That's why I didn't reach out to them, because, of course they're going to say, oh, yeah, everything's fine. You know what I mean? So that's the concern. And I honestly have not dove in any deeper than that, but I need to. So I'm going to grab a sticky note and I'm going to write that down while this is finishing drying. It's going really slow. And then we'll get started. I have to make myself notes, you guys, because I'm a sleep-deprived toddler mom. So if I don't write it down, it doesn't exist. And, another thing I did not do is, like, I did not check the fine print myself. So I was just taking that lady, what she said on YouTube, verbatim. And it was a situation that I don't think it directly happened to her, but it happened to somebody that she knew. She had emails from the person emailing Creative Fabrica and Creative Fabrica back to them. So I don't really know. That's why, it's always hearsay. And I have not dove into it directly myself. I would want to go into, the fine print and look myself. I also utilize, I use an attorney for DIY Alex, so I could always ask my attorney what she thought about things like that. So, who knows? Kristen said, not everything is 100% commercial license. Of course, all the videos I saw were from people with their own subscription services. So take that for as well. And that's exactly what I wondered too, Kristen. It's really easy to disparage a company when you would rather have the business yourself, right? Like, if we're just being honest. So I don't sell a subscription to anything. I don't sell any images or files or anything. So I can say that with an unbiased opinion, right? So I agree with you, Kristen. I was cautious, but I didn't immediately throw Creative Fabrica out the window because I need more information before I make a decision. I need to see it myself in the fine print. I need to talk to my own attorney, or, whatever the case may be, before I just go for it. So, but and that's not normally my type of content. I don't necessarily, I don't know. I would like to know the information. I was going to say maybe I could see if my attorney would do a video with me about stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to be known for things like that, for that realm of crafting for business. But, I don't know. Maybe I can talk to her about being in a video, maybe. I don't know. Okay. Thanks for the inspiration, guys. It's always good to know what you want to learn more about. All right. So I'm going to lay my cup down in my cup cradle. And then I've got two images here. I've got USA and I've got Land of the Free because of the Brave. I like the USA because it takes up more of the cup, it's taller. But I like the saying better, Land of the Free because of the Brave. We'll do this one because I just like that sentiment a little bit better. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I forgot you weren't overhead. I thought you were. Yeah, exactly, Christine. She said, not your negative drama. That's exactly, I want to be informed and I want to help keep you guys informed, but I have no desire to dive into that. And something that I always keep in mind like as a creator, is that anytime I make a video on a topic, not that I am like, you know, not that I think so much of myself that every video is going to go viral, but should I make a video that contributes to this and then it gets a lot of views, people are going to find me and assume that that's what I talk about. But the thing is that, you know, one video is just one topic. It's not everything that I talk about. So that's why I hesitate to dive into things like that, just because I don't necessarily want to make myself known for that. And honestly, a lot of you guys are hobbyist crafters. I don't have a ton of crafting business content. I'm not opposed to it because I know that many of you, you know, might sell on occasion or you might be interested in creating a craft business. But like, I am not a craft business teacher. I'm a crafting teacher. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's why I feel like maybe it would be better suited for me to tell you guys what I learned about this, like through my newsletter, rather than through a video, just because I don't want any negative attention around that when that's not really my deal. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's go ahead and dive a little deeper into UV DTF. If you guys hear my toddler shrieking, it's because he's playing downstairs. He's screaming really loud, but he's having fun. That's right. Kristen said the lesson is we should always read the fine print. Amen, sister. And Christine said you can spiral out of control so quick. Yeah, I found that out a couple times on TikTok. Not that I have like a crazy following on TikTok by any means. But if you get known for something or people find you for some particular reason, they just assume that's all you ever talk about, even though it's only one video. So, all right, so we've got our UV DTF decal ready to roll. And similar to vinyl, the first thing we need to do is peel off the backing. So we're gonna flip it with the image side down, and I'm gonna use my weeding pen, which I would normally use with vinyl, but in this case, I'm just gonna use it to separate the films. Whoop, and it's a little tricky to do. There we go. And just like transfer tape, the front side is nice and sticky, but the back side peels off easily. The beauty of things like this too is that there's no weeding, right? Just like with vinyl, all of these little intricate pieces would be such a pain, but we have no weeding, which is awesome. You know, Kristen, that's a good question. She said, I hope you have parchment for the application. I was just going to wing it, but I didn't think about parchment paper. But you know, the thing is, parchment paper might not necessarily help. Maybe it would, but I don't know. Because this is not repositionable anyways, well, I see what you're saying. We could possibly make it repositionable. Okay, hold on. We're gonna do this one the way that I was planning, and then if we have some time, which I think we do, I might do another one with a piece of parchment paper and see if that helps. Because I've not used parchment paper with UV DTF before, but it might really help. Let's see. Okay, so typically when I place a decal down on something, what I like to do is stick one finger at each side, and I like to bend it into a taco. Do you see how at the top of my decal is shaped like a taco now? And what I like to do is I like to stick down the center right in the middle where I want it, and then I let down one side and then the other side. And that just ensures that we go nice and slow, it's nice and controlled, and we get it exactly where we want it. So I'm going to be really, really careful to not stick it down yet. When I'm ready, I'm going to push those two sides together, place down that middle section. Then I like to let the left side go first because I'm left-handed, but it doesn't matter. And when that side's down, we'll place the right. All right. So initially, I do like to stick things down with my fingers just to get it on there. But then, because this is pressure activated, we really do need to use some type of squeegee tool. So I'm definitely going to put plenty of pressure on it with this. And something that I have learned and something that I have heard is that you do want to make sure you use pretty intense pressure with UV DTF. You don't want to be shy with pressing this down. Because this top film can be tricky to get off, especially if you have not really pushed down on the decal. So don't be shy. Make sure that it's really, really, really well stuck. Okay. So once we have all the pressure in place, we'll go ahead and start in one corner. And what I like to do is I like to put the non-sticky sides together. So I'm peeling back the film at 180 degrees, just like this, right? So we're gonna go right back on top of the image and just kind of peel it away. Now it's not the easiest, I will agree. I think it's harder than transfer tape, but it's not impossible, not by any means. So we peeled this off, but it almost looks like, okay, no, nothing stayed behind. It's just that those areas are more clear than the others. So it came off really easily in one big sheet. And then we're set. Looks just like that. So honestly, easy peasy. Kristen said, to quote someone else, burnish like it owes you money, then the rent is due tomorrow. That's hilarious. Yeah, like you definitely have to manhandle it a little bit, okay? Like we're not going to be like super soft and gentle, just because we want to make sure that the cover sheet is going to be easier to peel. Oh, you guys, I forgot. Okay, so instead of doing a second one of these Libby glasses, the other project I wanted to do is an acrylic bookmark, just because I thought it would be fun. So maybe another day we'll try the parchment paper with the UV DTF, because I have several more of these that I've never made. So I definitely could do that, but I do want to do this bookmark because I just think it's so cute. I want to make sure that we have time for that. So using parchment paper to ensure that your placement is nice and careful might be a nice compromise for the fact that UV DTF is not repositionable, is basically what it was coming down to and what Kristen was saying. So if you've never figured that out or never used the parchment paper method, I have a video called, I think it was like 5 life-changing Cricut tips that would have changed my life when I first started crafting. And in that video, I show you how to use the parchment paper method. If you're curious about it, if you've never used it before. So with these designs, because they're not necessarily created for the bookmark, they don't 100% fit, but I was thinking about doing USA down the bookmark like this, and then either putting the star at the bottom or the heart. I don't know, I'm kind of digging the star really, but they're both really cute. So we'll make this one a little bit quicker, and I'll just start sticking stuff on there. Because, okay, you guys, can I tell you the real reason why I don't want to stay on live until my babysitter leaves? I am going to unbox my sewing machine today. And the reason I'm laughing is because my sewing machine, my mother-in-law got me a sewing machine for Christmas, and it's June. And I have not unboxed it yet, and I have been wanting to and thinking about it, but I told myself today, I was like, you know what, Alex, you are unboxing that stinking sewing machine before the end of the day today. So I might not even get to get it all set up or anything, but today is the day, folks. I'm doing it. I'm making it happen. Okay, and now I can't get the backing off of this one. Christine said, the ads keep coming up and not allowing me in here until I go through my email link. New to YouTube. Any ideas on how to get back in here easier? Okay, that's interesting, Christine. I did change some ad settings on this video, so thank you for letting me know, because that's all new for me too. Okay, and Nicole is saying just wait for the skip button. So once the ads start to play, go ahead and click on skip. And then you should be able to come right back, hopefully. Or if you wait long enough, it should bring you right back to this video, I hope. But thank you for letting me know that's a problem. Some of them, yeah, and some of them may be unskippable. I did not have the ability to choose that. In this case, YouTube chose it for me. But hopefully, Christine, hopefully if you wait long enough, it should bring you back. But I'm sorry about that. I may have to look into fixing that because this is my first time trying it. So I am just kind of placing this willy-nilly, whatever I feel like looks good. And I think I did it okay. It might be a little bit crooked, not 100% straight with the hole at the top, but honestly, that's okay because the bookmark's for me. Hey, Louise, welcome. Okay, Kristen, that's good to know. I'm glad that you were able to skip it. But there are different types of ads, and not all of them are skippable. So it's definitely possible that that you ran into one, Christine. So thank you for letting me know. YouTube comes out with new features and stuff all the time. So sometimes I try things out and, you know, from a user side, I don't always get to experience them. So it's always good to know how you guys feel about things. But that is weird. I wonder if I can turn off the ability. So there are different types of ads on YouTube. And one of them is like, it's called a non-skippable video ad. And I wonder if I can turn that off so that all the ads that they do show you are always skippable, you know? I'll have to play around with that and see. Okay, so this other one I'm just going to put directly at the bottom. We're just going to kind of wing it. We're just going to kind of play. And then I need to end up adding some kind of tassel, whether I make the tassel or if I use a keychain tassel, or I guess I could just use a ribbon. There's lots of options, but I always like to have something coming out of the top of my book so that, you know, it's easy to find my page. Plus, especially with these acrylic bookmarks, I do find that it's important to have something because the acrylic bookmarks are kind of slippery. So I always like to have, you know, I always like to have something that helps me pull it out of the book easily. Huh. That's interesting, Christine. And the thing that is also tricky, Christine, is that the ads that you are being shown, like everybody gets shown different ads based on like where you live and different things like that. So it's not going to be the same that everybody else sees. And the timing is not also the same across what everybody else sees too. So that part can be a little tricky because whatever ad you saw might not have been shown to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like that's something that YouTube chooses on its own. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, I really do appreciate it. I will definitely look into that. So here's what our bookmark looks like with UV DTF. I really like using UV DTF with acrylic because if you guys ever crafted with keychains or any kind of acrylic craft in the past, making something like this with vinyl being like 3 different colors, that would have been a royal pain with vinyl, and UV DTF does make it like so easy. Now, the only con, though, is at the back side, because of that layer of white ink on the back of my bookmark, like just, you know, looks white, obviously. But, you know, if I really wanted to get crazy with my bookmark, I could always add like some UV resin and glitter or something like that. And who knows, I might get a wild hair and do that. For now, I'm going to leave it plain like this, but I do really like that. Let me grab a little red ribbon and we'll use that as our kind of ribbon embellishment until I figure out what I want to do. We are wrapping up here. So if you guys have any more questions about DTF or UV DTF, please let me know. Go ahead and put those in the chat for me and I will answer any last questions. That's what Kristen said, but unbox that sewing machine first before dealing with YouTube. That's what I'm saying, Kristen. Every time I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to make this happen, something else always comes up. So you are exactly right. I need to unbox it. The first thing. In fact, you know what I'm going to do, Kristen, because I know that I need this accountability. I am going to post a picture in our Crafty Fam Facebook group after I have unboxed it. And if you don't see it from me, by golly, I want y'all to ask me about it. Ask me, Alex, did you unbox the sewing machine? Because I have got to get this done. There's no way that I can ever dive in and learn more if I don't just start, right? Because the first step to starting is starting. All right, you guys, let me show you all one last view of all the projects. So these are our 2 UV DTF projects. This one says Land of the Free because of the brave. And honestly, this USA one is going to look super cute on another one of these. So we need to try out that parchment paper. And then here's our acrylic bookmark. I know it's a little bit tricky to see. It says USA going down the side with a little star. So cute. And then our 2 traditional DTF projects are these 2 right here. We ended up with koozies, and they honestly turned out really, really well, especially for just using my Cricut Easy Press. That's Kristen said we were supposed to go on a sewing journey together. I know, Kristen, that's what I'm saying. And so here's a quick little funny story, and then I'm going to let y'all go because I'm going to go unbox my sewing machine. My babysitter leaves in 30 minutes, so I got to hustle. But last Mother's Day, it was my very first Mother's Day, and my husband gave me a choice. He came up with what he wanted me to do, and what he did is he gave me an entire afternoon to sew by myself, and then in that time he watched our son, and then he made dinner for us at home. He made our favorite meal, which is baked spaghetti, by the way. It's the best. So it was a super fun Mother's Day, and I finished an apron that I started as my first like big girl sewing project. And that's like the only thing that I've done since then. And meanwhile, Kristen got her sewing machine for Christmas. Kristen has been making quilt squares and quilts and like doing all the things. And I haven't even unboxed my machine. Now I've been using my mom's machine. So I have my mom's machine over there and it's like not in a box or anything, but I have not touched my brand new brother's sewing machine. So I am going to do that. I did mention this before, and I just want to reiterate one more time. If you are interested in learning more about traditional DTF, so in my workshop, we do not cover UV DTF because I felt like that would be confusing to, put the 2 together because they have some differences. If you are interested in learning more about traditional DTF, I have workshops available over on my website, DIYAlex.com. I also have it linked down in the description of this video if you want to learn what's included with it. But just real quickly, it's basically a like 1 hour-ish masterclass all about DTF. You will finish it up feeling inspired, ready to put DTF on anything that doesn't move. But in addition to that, you get 5 printable note pages. You get lifetime access. So once you pay for it, you never lose access as long as DIY Alex is, as long as DIY Alex is a company, you will have access to that workshop. And then you also get a pre-recorded Q&A that I did with Heather from 143 because 143 Vinyl did sponsor that workshop. And we talked about some of your questions that you brought to the live, as well as just some other things that I didn't fit into the workshop itself. So it's $29, but you get tons and tons of content and lifetime access if you're interested. But if not, I have tons of free content here on YouTube. Make sure you check out my DTF workshop, my DTF projects playlist, which also this video is included in, so that you can see the DTF content that I've done so far. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I forgot to say this too. I added some new graphics to our live thing. If you haven't already joined our Facebook group, please be sure that you do that because that's a great way that we stay connected outside of live videos. It's called All the Things Cricut and Crafty, and also at the end it has my name with DIY Alex over on Facebook. So you can either type that in the search bar or it's also linked in the video description if you would rather access it there. I also have a link to my email list. So my email list is by far my best way to communicate with all of you because with social media, I can't guarantee that the posts that I make, you're gonna actually see. So I have been communicating a lot with email. So if you're not already on my email list, make sure that you type in your name and your email in the form, and then you'll be added to my email list. You guys, thank you so much for joining me and hanging out this afternoon. It was so much fun. All the hearts. I love and appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for being here, and